Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're taking the sources you sent us, and we are focusing on, well, a really dynamic and vital institution in the Caribbean.
We are. We're looking at Jamaica's National Housing Trust, or as most people know it, the NHT.
And our mission for this deep dive, using material from Jamaica Homes, is to really understand how this one entity tackles the huge challenge of housing.
Right. Accessibility and affordability. It's a pretty unusual model when you look at how it combines, public finance with a very strong social mandate.
So before we get into the mechanics, let's just define it. The sources call it a statutory body. What does that mean in practical terms? Is it just another government department?
That's a great question. And no, it's actually much more specific.
Okay.
When we say statutory body, it means it was set up by a specific act of parliament. It has its own legal mandate.
So it has a degree of independence.
A huge degree.
Yeah.
Think of it as a specialized entity. It can focus its funding and its entire mission solely on housing. And it's a bit insulated from, the day-to-day shifts in government budgets.
That insulation seems absolutely crucial. Okay, so let's unpack its core mission. The source material points to two twin goals that seem to define everything the NHT does.
Exactly. The first one is the big picture, the macro-level mission.
Which is?
To increase and enhance the overall stock of housing available in Jamaica. So they are actively involved in construction, in building new homes.
That's the supply side.
That's the supply side. And then the second goal is much more focused on the individual.
So if the first goal is building houses, the second is helping people get into them.
Precisely. It's providing financial assistance to contributors for their specific housing needs.
That's right.
So they're tackling both supply and affordability at the same time.
And what exactly are housing needs? Is that just buying a new home?
No. And this is where you start to see how broad their mandate is. The financial help covers four main areas.
Okay.
The purchase of a home, sure, but also the construction of a new one. And then the improvement of an existing home, or even just essential repairs.
Wow, so that really covers the whole life cycle of a home. It's not a one-time thing.
Not at all. A family might need a loan to buy a plot of land today.
And then a construction loan a few years later, and maybe a repair loan down the road.
You got it. It keeps the existing housing stock from falling apart and makes sure that something like, say, needing a new roof doesn't completely destabilize a family financially.
Okay, so to tackle a challenge that big, you need a massive amount of capital. How does the NHT actually fund all of this? This feels like the engine room of the whole operation.
It is. This is where the Jamaican model is so different from many others. The NHT is funded through, mandatory contributions. Mandatory contributions from the entire employed workforce in Jamaica.
So if you have a job, you and your boss are both legally required to pay into this National Housing Fund.
Absolutely. The source material lays it out clearly. Employers contribute a percentage of their total payroll.
Okay.
And employees contribute a portion of their salaries. And crucially, the employer's part is typically the larger share.
So businesses have a legal responsibility to help house the workforce.
It's institutionalized. It frames housing as a shared societal responsibility built directly into the system of employment.
I mean, that's the core of it, right? What is the economic advantage of making it mandatory like that?
The advantage is scale and stability.
Okay.
By taking contributions from the entire workforce, you create this enormous, constantly refilling pool of capital that is legally ring-fenced.
Ring-fenced, meaning it can only be used for housing.
It cannot be touched for anything else. Unlike general taxes that could be diverted, this money has one purpose.
So what does having that guaranteed capital pool do for the average person? Does it affect interest rates, for instance?
It fundamentally changes the entire equation.
How so?
Because their capital base is so secure, the NHT can operate with much lower risk than, say, a private bank. And that lets them offer interest rates that are way below the commercial market.
Which makes them a huge disruptor, especially for people on lower or middle incomes who might otherwise be completely priced out.
It's a direct line. Stability of funding translates directly into affordability for the individual.
So if I'm employed and I'm contributing, does that mean I'm automatically eligible for a loan?
That's the key question. It's not quite that simple. Eligibility requires sustained participation.
Right. You have to show some commitment.
Exactly. There are two main requirements. First, you have to be a current contributor.
Of course.
And second, you have to have been contributing for a specified period of time.
So you can't just contribute for a month and then expect to get a full loan.
No. That period ensures the system's integrity and makes sure benefits go to those who have consistently invested in the pool.
Okay, that makes sense. We've established a cost of entry. Let's talk about the payoff. For those who are eligible, the NHT has a whole suite of financial products.
And the variety is really key. They have specialized products because the needs are so different at each stage of the housing journey.
Right. So let's start with the big one, the standard home loans.
Home loans are sort of the catch-all. They cover purchasing an existing house, financing a new build from scratch, or making really significant improvements. It's their main mortgage product.
But I see another category here that seems really important, especially in a developing market. House lot loans.
Yes.
Can we just clarify that term? A lot is just the land, right?
In Jamaican real estate, yes, a lot is a parcel of land you intend to build on
And why is it so important to have a separate loan just for the land?
because it separates the two biggest hurdles. Buying land is a huge upfront cost. This loan lets you secure the land first.
Ah, so you can lock down your property now and then maybe build later when you've saved up a bit more.
Precisely. It makes the whole process much more manageable. And then you have the dedicated home improvement loans for smaller things, maintenance and repairs. It completes that whole life cycle we talked about.
Okay, now let's get into what really seems to define the NHT's social mission, the special benefits.
Yes, this is where the equity component really shines.
Because everyone is paying in, so the system has a responsibility to make sure access isn't just for those with the highest incomes.
Absolutely. The special benefits are targeted at the most vulnerable contributors. The source material points out two main programs.
And what are they?
First, they provide grants for people with disabilities. This recognizes the extra costs they face in adapting a home.
Okay, that's huge. And the second?
The second is subsidies for low-income earners.
By subsidies, do we mean like lower interest rates or actual grants that don't need to be paid back?
It can be a mix of both, but the goal is to dramatically reduce the financial burden. It ensures that the system truly lifts up the most vulnerable into homeownership.
Something that would be impossible for them on the open market.
Utterly impossible. It's a social safety net, but for housing.
But the NHT isn't just a bank. The sources also say they have wider programs to increase the housing stock in general. How do they do that?
They're very proactive. The first strategy is direct intervention. They actually build large-scale housing schemes themselves.
So they're literally creating new inventory, putting more houses on the market.
Exactly. And because they're the developer, they control the price, ensuring those homes are sold at affordable rates to contributors, not for maximum profit.
That's a powerful market stabilizer. What else?
They also use their huge capital base to do joint financing with other institutions.
So they partner with private banks.
They do. It lets them take on massive projects and share the risk, basically pulling private money into their national housing mission.
And the third strategy must tie back to those low-income earners.
It does. They offer specific incentives beyond just the subsidies. Things like much more favorable interest rates or more relaxed collateral requirements. It's all about making sure the system serves everyone who pays into it.
So we've covered the mission, the funding, the eligibility, the whole suite of benefits. Let's step back and ask that so what question. What is the overall role of the NHT in Jamaica?
When you synthesize it all, it's clear. The NHT is the pivotal institution stabilizing the entire housing sector in the country.
It's the engine.
It is. It makes housing more affordable and more accessible than it could ever be in a purely private market. It's both the main source of affordable finance and a major developer of new homes.
So they're creating stability, which is the foundation for everything else. For families to plan, to build assets, they're basically correcting a massive market failure that would leave most people behind.
That's it perfectly. By leveraging those mandatory contributions, the NHT creates this self-sustaining cycle where the economy's activity directly fuels social equity and national development. It's a remarkable model.
It really is. That was a fantastic deep dive into a powerful and, frankly, unique institution. Thank you for walking us through its structure and its impact.
My pleasure. And as we always do, we want to leave you with one final thought to reflect on.
Absolutely.
Given that the NHT is funded by mandatory contributions from all employed Jamaicans, how does this model fundamentally change the relationship between work, government, and the individual promise of homeownership compared to purely private market solutions? And, considering its efficiency and scale, is this a social contract that other nations struggling with housing affordability could feasibly replicate? Think about that tension between compulsory contribution and guaranteed benefit until our next deep dive.